Now we have a MMA legend, H20, Ron Waterman. Hey, Ron.
Hey, thanks for having me, Mark.
Really appreciate it. So, what's up with you tonight?
Not a whole lot, buddy. Just done training for the second time today, so get to relax a little bit here.
Now, how often do you train?
Oh, I train twice a day, about 6 days a week. So I teach a lot of classes at the gym that I attend up here, so I stay pretty busy.
Okay, and what gym would that be?
It's called Workout West here in Greeley, Colorado.
Okay. So let's get started. How did you get your start in mixed martial arts?
Well, actually, I was a high school wrestling coach, and I was challenged by some of the wrestlers on my team to enter a local mixed martial arts tournament down in Denver, Colorado called the Boss Rutan Invitational, and that's when the UFC was just starting to get popular, and we had guys like Mark Coleman and Dan Severn that were just wrestlers that were doing real well. So my wrestlers challenged me to enter this contest and see what I would do. So I trained for probably just a couple of weeks and went and entered this contest and walked through all three matches fairly easy and had some pretty tough competitors. And John Peretti, who was the UFC matchmaker at the time, was actually the official of this contest, and they offered me a shot at the UFC. So the next month I was in my first UFC after 3 professional fights.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So talking more about your amateur wrestling, did you get started in high school with that or college?
Well, I actually started in the 4th grade, so I had been doing it for quite a while and became a top wrestler in the state in high school and earned a scholarship onto the University of Northern Colorado, where I wrestled for 4 years and became one of the top wrestlers in the nation as a college heavyweight.
Nice. So let's see. Where did you enjoy fighting more? Was it in the UFC or Pride?
Both were really great experiences. I fought in the UFC before I fought in Pride. And they were both, a little bit overwhelming just because I hadn't fought, for very long like some of the kids do today. They've got, all these fights before they even would dream of getting a shot in the UFC, and here I just jumped right into it. So it was a little bit of a shock to me, but it was a pretty good experience. But Pride, actually, I had, some huge venues when I fought just about all of my Pride fights. But when I fought Kevin Randleman, it was in front of 45,000 people, so it was a pretty big ordeal. And then when I fought Mirko Cro Cop over there in the main event, that was another huge fight. And the crowds are so different in Japan than they are here in the United States. It's a totally different atmosphere, but
sure,
both are just unique and great experiences.
Okay. How important do you think wrestling is in mixed martial arts today?
I still think it's really important. It's probably one of the best backgrounds that you could have going into becoming a fighter. I think, back when I was just starting to compete, it was probably a little bit more important just because you could be a great wrestler and dominate, just like some of the early UFC champions used to. And today, you don't see that happen. You got guys like Brock Lesnar who are unbelievable wrestlers, but, the guys have just trained so hard and they're so well-rounded that they can defend those takedowns, and they're so good on the ground at jiu-jitsu that they can work their way back off the ground once they get taken down. And so it's still very important because you learn, leverage and you learn how to use your weight, and there's just so many great assets that it brings to the game, but it's not as important as it used to be back in the day when I was in there.
Here's another question. How did you come up with your nickname?
Actually, I got it when I was in my very first UFC fight, and a bunch of people just started calling me H20 Man, and just kind of stuck and just carried on throughout the years. Okay.
Now, as far as today's MMA goes, what are your favorite fighters to watch in the cage?
Oh, well, I've got a couple that I've trained with personally that is kind of fun for me. I mean, was in the WWE and tag team partners with Brock Lesnar, so he became a pretty good friend of mine. So I got to train with him last year. He flew me up to Alexandria and helped him prepare for his fight with Cain Velasquez, and didn't turn out quite like we wanted it to, but he's a great guy to train with. And then Shane Carwin was one of my high school wrestlers when I was a coach at Greeley West High School, and he started to help me get ready for my first UFC fights. And then when he started to compete, I had started, to help him. So I've been real close with Shane over the years as well. So it's been really fun to watch those guys compete. And as you just said, Duane Ludwig was on your show. I competed with Duane when he was just probably 16 years old. He was actually in that very first Boss Rutan Invitational tournament with me.
Oh, really?
And he was probably about 17 years old at the time. But
that's kind of
we
cool.
always had a blast watching Duane because he had such crazy good leg kicks. But there's a lot of guys that I've trained with over the years. Brendan Schaub, I still get to train with down in Denver at the Grudge Training Center, and Elliot Marshall, and a lot of the guys that are still competing today. So
good
it's a little
stuff.
bit more fun to watch them when you know them personally.
Yeah, for sure. Now, what was your opinion of the Carwin-Lesnar fight going into it?
It was one of those fights that, I'm trained with both of them and know them both very well, and so it was one of those fights that I really didn't have a strong opinion either way on who was going to win that fight. It was just, they both brought different things to the table, and, it turned out that it almost could have gone either way.
For sure.
Shane having him, close to the ref stopping it, but he didn't, and ended up just kind of punching himself out, and Brock's just a warrior and was able to fight back through that and catch him in an arm triangle. So, great fight. For
sure. Now, obviously, you went to the WWE and you went to their, is it in Ohio you went? The training?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ohio Valley Wrestling.
Yes,
OVW.
that's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, how long were you there?
I was in OVW for about a year and a half before I got called up to the traveling roster. And then I was on the traveling roster for just about a year. Then got to come back home and just fly out of DIA to go to all the different venues every week. But it was a pretty crazy lifestyle.
Yeah, for sure.
Hard, one that, you see on TV, but you really have no idea what living that life is like until you've walked in those shoes. Just the amount of beating on your body. And I got hurt more probably as a professional wrestler than I did as a mixed martial artist, just because.
Yeah, and you're on the road all the time too.
Oh, nonstop, and there's once you're hurt, you just kind of work through those injuries. You don't get time off, and it's pretty rugged life.
Okay, so I got the name game. Tell me what comes to mind when you hear these names. Number one, Shane Carwin.
I would have to say a friend.
Kevin Randleman.
Great takedowns.
Rico Rodriguez.
Celebrity Rehab.
Nice. Number 4 is Brock Lesnar.
Angry.
And number 5 is Bas Rutten.
Oh, wow. An actor. I could tell you stories about each one of those guys.
Just 1 second here.
You're all right.
Anyway, so sorry about that. Anyways, fantasy matchup, you versus Brock Lesnar. What type of game plan would you employ?
Oh, wow. We're so similar in fighting styles. I would have to say that I would want to stay in the top position with him and not fight from underneath. He's so dang strong, and his ground and pound is pretty intense. So I would definitely want to stay up in his guard or past his guard.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And is there anything else that you'd like to promote on the show, such as your Twitter, sponsors, or website?
Yeah, I have a Twitter account and a Facebook account, and I keep those updated with all of my speaking engagements all around the world. And I also just published a brand new book that's at www.tappedoutbyjesus.com that just came out a couple months ago, so real excited about that.
Good stuff. Actually, there was one other thing I wanted to ask you about. I seen the video with, you were like bending stuff and busting stuff up. I think I seen you with a frying pan. You turned it and ripped the phone books. What's that all about?
Yeah, I travel with a Christian strength team called Team Impact Ministries, and we've actually been able to travel all around the world for the last 8 years, and we talk to schools and do positive messages for kids and talk about peer pressure and alcohol and drugs and making good choices in life. And then at the nighttime show, we get to share our testimonies and our faith, and it's a blast. And we get to do feats of strength to get people's attention. So we'll tear a phone book and roll up a frying pan and explode a pop can and do all kinds of silly stuff, but it gets people's attention.
Good stuff, Ron. Well, thank you very much for taking the time, and we'll talk to you soon.
Great. Thank you, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Have a good night.
Bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye.